felt like a story the world needed to hear. So I take my grandma to the airport today, and just to give a little bit of context, she is one of the sweetest human beings on the planet, just not always thinking about how things may work out. And that'll make sense in a minute. So I'm gonna make this quick, but I take her to the airport. She's flying to Canada. She has 2 check-in bags, 1 carry-on. I realized very quickly that the check-in bag's weigh more than 50 pounds, but who knows? Who am I to know? I'm not a scale. I have no perception of weight, so it's fine. I'm like in the car, I'm just praying because I'm running late. I have stuff going on later today. I'm like, please don't be more than 50 pounds. We get there, they're both about 64 pounds. So I'm like, all right, this is gonna happen. We have to unpack these bags. She's given me a small tote in case, size reference, in case the bags are too heavy, that I can collect stuff and take back with me. So whatever, no big deal. She starts taking out clothes. I'm like, Grandma Jan's her name. Grandma Jan, you gotta take out the heavy stuff. The clothes aren't gonna do it. They're just not. And so she's like, oh yeah, you're probably right. So she proceeds to take out her first heavy item, which happens to be her sewing machine. That'll do it. That'll do it. That was the extra weight, all of that. So we get the first bag down. Great. We need to do the next bag now. So we do the next bag. And once again, Grandma Jan, don't just take out the clothes. Let's start with the heavy stuff and go from there. She proceeds to take out the silver platter. She said, that'll do it. That's the extra weight right there. However, that wasn't all the extra weight. We needed to take out more. So she proceeds to take out a towel that she has used to wrap something. She unrolls this towel on the floor in the airport, and she takes out her knife collection that she was gifted. So yes, we now are standing there with knives, sitting on the airport floor. I'm like, Grandma Jan, give me those knives. Let's speed it up. Let's speed it up here. Long story short, I made it out alive, and it's a day I'll never forget. That's for sure.
Put a finger down if you've ever been on a red-eye flight with your girl and you decide you both want a window seat, because who doesn't? You sit in one and she sits in the seat behind you, and you're an extremely nervous flyer. You're scared of planes, so you reach your arm behind your seat as the plane's taking off and hold on to your girl's leg. And the lady in the seat next to you has a baby, and the baby starts crying and won't stop for literally the first 3 hours of the flight. And you can't use your headphones because you forgot to charge your AirPods before you got on the plane. So there's no escaping this baby crying. There's also tons of turbulence on the plane, and every time that the plane shakes, you think you're gonna crash and die. So you reach your arm behind your seat to touch your girl's leg for emotional support. Finally, the baby stops crying and the turbulence stops, and you think you're going to be able to fall asleep. You reach your hand behind your seat one more time, but your girl's leg isn't there. And you reach it back a little further, and you make contact with her leg and start stroking it, and she slaps your hand extremely hard. You get confused, you pull your hand back, and you try to make eye contact with her. You look back behind your seat. You want to make sure she's not upset at you. And you realize it's a 40-something-year-old lady sitting behind you. Your girl's actually sitting behind her, and you've basically been fondling and death gripping some random girl's leg for the last 3 hours of the flight. And now you're worried that she's going to press charges on you when you get off the plane. So you're trying to figure out how you can explain to her that you thought she was somebody else. But everybody's sleeping on the plane, so you can't just say it to her. So you decide to write a note on your phone and pass it back to her to read so she can understand what's going on. And you try to pass your phone back, but you accidentally drop it in between your seat and the side of the plane. And you can't reach it. It's stuck somewhere underneath your seat, and you can't find your phone. And about 30 minutes later, your phone alarm starts to go off at 5 in the morning because you forgot to turn off your alarm from the night before on this red-eye flight, and you cannot reach your phone, and everybody's getting upset, and you've never been more embarrassed in your life, and people are starting to yell at you to turn off your phone. The flight attendant comes over and says you need to silence your phone, and you say, I can't reach it, it's underneath my seat somewhere, and she has to make all the people in your row and in the row behind you get out of their seats so you can reach down and find your phone and silence your phone. At this point, the baby's crying again, and the mom's pissed off at you, and everybody on that red-eye flight wishes you were never born. And finally, you get your phone and you turn off the alarm, and the lady that was sitting behind you still looks terrified, and she asks the flight attendant if she can go sit in another seat, and she disappears into the front of the plane. and you never see her again. You never get an opportunity to explain to her that you thought she was somebody else and you weren't, in fact, trying to fondle her the entire flight.
Y'all don't know this, but I'm embarrass myself. At a point in time, actually, this was like a couple months ago. I was with this girl that was pregnant. Nah, she wasn't a mom already. This wasn't a second kid or nothing like that. This was her first kid. And she was 2 to 3 months pregnant to the point where it was barely showing. And yeah, she told me. It ain't like she hornswoggled me or nothing. Like, I knew from the jump I was just desperate as. Of course, that ended. You feel me? Of course. Before it got too deep, before she started showing. But I was just thinking about that. Like what if I had really went with that? How would the gender reveal have been? Everybody be looking at me like, why the are you here? Would have had to show up to the baby shower with a weak shirt talking about, I'm not the stepdad, I'm the dad that stepped up. Like, no.
So this guy invites me to dinner and he texts me that night. He goes, just wear like jeans and a black sweater or something like that, which I assumed was a suggestion, although oddly specific. Well, no one's gonna tell me what to do, so I don't wear that, and I get to the restaurant and he doesn't even say hi. He just goes, well, that doesn't look like a black sweater. I really should have left at this point, but I didn't, and it got so much worse. I actually asked him why it was such a specific request, and he goes, I just think women look best in a black sweater and jeans. Yeah, well, good thing I didn't ask, right? So the same night, I was basically debating whether or not, I'm not naturally blonde, obviously, but I was debating whether or not to color my hair back to my natural dark brown. And he tells me that if I went back to my dark hair, he would never speak to me or see me again. And we're at a sushi restaurant, right? And I don't like raw food. Like, I don't like the texture of the meat. He calls me uncultured and then basically bullies me. He actually force feeds me the sushi. Like, he puts in a fork and she's like, just open your mouth, put it in. And I just don't like raw fish. Like, I don't like raw fish. I don't like raw meat. I don't like the texture. And he kept calling me uncultured. You have to culture your palate. You have to, like, explore more, expand your horizons. Mind you, this is coming from a man who told me he hates onions, cilantro, and garlic. On our first date, he ordered, I forgot what it was. He ordered this dish and there was onions and cilantro on it. And he actually, like, freaked out. And he yelled at the waiter, made him send it back to the kitchen, and made them, like, redo the whole dish. Because he hates seasonings or, like, vegetables, he said. But it's weird that I don't like raw fish. Another red flag was he was really rude and arrogant to the waitstaff and the valet. Like, he just very, very condescending. And I think the worst part of this whole date was towards the end, he was making me PDA with him. Like, he just kept pulling me in to kiss him. And I kept saying, like, no, like, I mean, like, not in public at least. Like, I don't really know you that well. And even though I expressed that I was uncomfortable, he kept pulling me in. And he kept saying, like, no, kiss me slower. You have to do it more romantically. Kiss me more romantically. Like, what do you think this is? Like, this isn't the girlfriend experience. I mean, I don't even know this guy. It's in public, too. He also made sure I knew how much he was paying for the meal. He was like, oh, I'm paying $300 for this meal, which is really, really tacky. So I basically kind of ghosted him after this. Like, I didn't even feel the need to respond to him because, I mean, after that kind of date, I just don't think he's entitled to my time, you know? But then he called me rude for ignoring him, so I replied. But this was the last interaction we had, and I didn't let him call me. I didn't text him back. It's just, he's eliminated from the roster, you know? And another thing about the whole hair comment from the previous video, he also told me, you don't look good with your natural hair, you know that, right? Like, boy, bye. I wanted to tell him, like, yeah, and you don't look good with your natural. I've seen a picture. It's not that pretty. And I remember at the end of the date, he had the audacity to be like, oh, you're just not your normal, usual, bubbly self. Like, the entire date was terrible. Like, I don't know what he was expecting. Especially after that sweater comment from the beginning. And I'm sure he was joking, but I didn't take this as a joke. But he said that I needed a shirt that said property of insert his name. Like, I'm not even kidding. He said that. That's when I knew I am never seeing this man again.